Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. Today we're talking about Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I'm your host, Brent, and today we're going to talk about Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Now, I know this review is like a week late. Well, I was in Japan, got back, got over my jet lag, and I finally felt like I was awake enough to sit through a near 3-hour film. So I saw it last night with my wife, and I have some thoughts. First of all, I didn't go in spoiled with anything. I stayed away from, I think I watched maybe 2 reviews. I watched like 2 on YouTube. I didn't read any reviews because usually the written reviews are the ones that get me sometimes, because some of these mainstream magazines don't care about spoilers sometimes. So I didn't read any of those. I muted everything having to do with Black Panther, Wakanda Forever on Twitter. The hashtags, the words, the characters, all that stuff for like 30 days. So I wouldn't get spoiled there. I think the only thing I encountered was like maybe one thing on CBR, like just scrolling by a fucking headline as they're wont to do, like fuck those guys. So my opinion is entirely my own. I haven't watched any other reviews since I saw the movie last night. So this is all me. Man, this was so middle of the pack. Like for all the praise this thing got, it really did not feel like it does. Not that it didn't deserve it, but it didn't really feel like you were watching the same movie that everybody else loves. At least for me. I thought there were some weird choices in here. I thought there were some cool choices, but towards the end, when you get to that finale, I think is where it kind of fell apart. And I feel like this film wanted to be 2 different things. You know, Marvel needed its film to introduce Namor, and Ryan Coogler and the cast needed this film to be the mourning of T'Challa. And we quickly get through the mourning of T'Challa, even though it's still kind of a central theme for Shuri's character throughout the film, but it feels like it's forgotten by the wayside the moment Namor shows up. So I thought there'd be a little bit more of that throughout. You know, I guess that year jump in time maybe was the thing that shook me by surprise. Like, not only did we have a year since T'Challa died, but like Nakia had not been seen in 6 years since everybody blipped away. So that was kind of strange. So with those 2 things said, like that's kind of that dichotomy of these 2 different films, made the film not work for me. I think the strongest part of the film, honestly, was not the T'Challa memory stuff. It was the Namor stuff. So I watched the first Black Panther film coming back from Japan. I watched it on my iPad. I downloaded it. I was like, I'm going to get ready. I'm going to refresh myself on the first Black Panther. And I had a tough time watching it. Not because I was tired. I watched it on my flight from Dallas here to home. So it was enough time to watch the whole film, but I got choked up watching that film because of how powerful and magnetic Chadwick Boseman was. And this film, the second one, it just lacks that entirely. And there is no replacement for that, so I get why they chose not to recast T'Challa. I don't have an argument for or against it. I'm not in control. Would I have liked to see the actor live longer? Absolutely. And do more T'Challa shit? Absolutely. Would I like to see more T'Challa, period? Absolutely. Whether it's in a different actor or not, sure. But I don't make those decisions, so I don't really have a say in them. You know what I mean? But I get why they didn't do it, because they were so close and such a family, and that film was so important and so wonderful. This film just lacks a lot of that charisma, and you have the character of Shuri trying to fill that role as the main character, but I feel like it was very sudden to have her be the main character. I mean, everything about this film was sudden because of the sudden tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman a couple years ago. So Shuri was very, like, it felt like every character in that first Black Panther film was there to lighten the load of T'Challa's nobleness. Okoye was cracking jokes. Nakia was, the romantic pull and then always cracking jokes. Shuri cracking jokes. What are those? His sandals and stuff. That moment. She was always there. The Warrior Fall scene, the first one, she's there saying, do we have to be here any longer? I don't want to wear this stupid outfit. Always there to crack jokes. So they didn't really get, you got that she was the smart, technical person in Wakanda, inventing all this new technology, like this super genius like Tony Stark. Awesome. I like that they established that in this film. And this is such a hard right from all of that to give all these characters this emotional core and emotional depth that they didn't have before. You're just like, okay, Okoye, I get it, because she was the one I think we spent the most time with in the last film with T'Challa. It was T'Challa and Okoye. And we've seen Okoye in the other Avengers films as well. So her I understood. But Queen Ramonda was not there to crack jokes in the last film, so she's kind of the same. Okay. But Shuri was just this hard right turn of this new character that's panicked and you're taking her seriously and things like that, and is very sudden. So you have to kind of earn it very fast. And the more I watched Shuri, the less I was on board with her being Black Panther, I guess. Because it felt very haphazard. There weren't, it was all that they were trying to do the heart-shaped herb at the beginning to save T'Challa, and it felt very sudden at the end to all of a sudden find this thing instead of something she's been tinkering away at throughout the film. I felt like if maybe they had shown her just tinkering with it a little bit, on the plane to MIT or coming back from, it seemed very all of a sudden I figured out the solution to my problem that I've been dealing with for a year, rather than I've been working on it, slowly chipping away at it. This thing bothers me so much that I fail to save my brother, that come hell or high water, I will make this freaking, fake heart-shaped herb. That's where I kind of wanted her to go, I guess, or feel like she was accomplishing it slowly, rather than all of a sudden I figured it out. And I know that's not technically the way it happens sometimes, but just emotionally, it felt very sudden and haphazard. And then I think the thing with her seeing Killmonger and J'aka in the ancestral plane, I liked him there. Man, I really liked Michael B. Jordan. I wish they didn't kill that character because he is awesome in that role. And his speech to Shuri was wonderful and very heartfelt, and pointed out the fact that, yeah, she is not her brother and she is full of vengeance and wrath, but just the way that they wrapped up the film just didn't make sense of that at all. So I think it was a hard right turn to get to being Shuri being the main character and her being this, side character who's there for comic relief, all of a sudden to our main character who we're supposed to have empathy and feelings for, when we didn't have any of that established at all. And she's starting her journey in her lowest point. Just was, I guess, difficult to grasp for me. So I'll leave that there. Namor, I really enjoyed. I really liked him, or Namor, the man without love kind of thing. I thought that was a really cool Sin Amor. I really like that origin or whatever of his code name. That's cool. Kuku Khan, very hard to pronounce for me. But the Feather Serpent God, what his people call him, and Talakan, being this ancient city, this Mayan culture that they just I thought that was very neat that it was, the Mayans abandoned their city in the 1600s, dove into the ocean and never came up. And I like the touch of where they came up out of the water and turned blue because of the oxygen thing. I thought that was a very neat touch because you were underneath the water and everybody looked the same. I was because I always kind of wondered with Namor, if everybody's blue, at least in the Marvel comics, everybody's blue all the time. The Atlanteans, Namor is the ruler of Atlantis in Marvel, in the comic books. If everybody's blue all the time, why isn't there is there no weird feelings about him having a regular skin tone or a different skin tone than the rest of his people? but they made that perfectly clear here that under the water, when everybody's breathing water, everybody's the same. Like there is no difference, and that's what makes him special. Is that when he comes out of the water, his skin doesn't change. He can blend in with everybody. It's just the other Talakanans, or his people, the rest of Talakan, that turns blue when they come out of the water. I thought that was a very inventive touch, and I'm not sure if people noticed it at all, because I was kind of curious watching the previews of his birth scene. I was like, so he's a mutant because he was born underwater? No, he's not that at all. And drinking the vibranium like flower and that stuff, that made sense to me. Linking that ancient society, another powerful ancient society, to a vibranium meteor made sense to me. And all of Namor's like motivations and stuff made sense to me, because he was born during the time of the conquistadors, running across Latin America, just bringing with them disease and famine, starvation, slavery, all that shit. And just seeing him relate that to saying, this is going to be what's going to happen to my people if we're discovered, and that's why I'm going to burn Wakanda if you say anything about us at all, or burn the entire world. It all made sense to me, and I think that's what made him such a charismatic character. And the actor too, Tenoch Huerta, is wow, what a presence that guy has. I'm interested to see more of Namor with him in the role. I hope they do more with him. I hope it's sooner rather than later. And the way that they ended it with him giving Namor his reason of why he did what he did, that was like, wow, he really playing the Game of Thrones here, so to speak, for power in the Marvel Universe. So definitely like that. It seems like they're building something a little more here with the vibranium. I've seen some things about vibranium wars coming. Maybe armor wars will be something like that. I don't know. And that's a movie now also, right? That graduated from a Disney Plus show to a movie. So that's going to be interesting. That the world wants vibranium, and seeing like the French special forces get their asses kicked by the Wakandans there. I felt like I was more interested. I like both of these stories of the A plot and B plot of like Talakan wanting to stay secret, and then war with Wakanda in like the second half of the film, maybe the second 2/3. But that first third of it, where you have people searching for vibranium because it's so valuable, I really like that conflict, and I wanted to see more of that. It's just as soon as Talakan showed up in the film, we forgot all about that kind of conflict with all the other players, and it was purely a Wakanda versus Talakan movie. So I felt like the other players in the world kind of got forgotten about a little bit. But yeah, I really liked Namor. I liked the tour of Talakan, and Namor saying like, hey, she's like, I want to see your city. He's like, you can't, because it'll break your bones from the pressure. But I have a suit, and it was a suit they stole from the other people. So literally, she's the first person outside of their civilization to see Talakan ever, because they had killed these other Americans and stole their suits. I thought was quite interesting. But the way that they just made everything, like when you're underwater and you're breathing water, it doesn't matter. It looked like it was like one of those MC Escher drawings, where it doesn't matter if you're standing sideways or upside down or right side up, because it's all the same to you. Felt very like interesting design wise. Very different from what Atlantis was in the Aquaman film. And I could see why they said, all right, we're going to pivot hard left on this Atlantis thing with Namor in the Marvel Universe, because Aquaman's done that. We've seen that. And Atlantis was very reminiscent of Wakanda. Like, I think they came out almost around the same time, right? 2017, 2018, 2019. Like, that's kind of where they came out. Very similar in terms of, like, new technology. And even though Atlantis we didn't see that much of, but I get why they didn't want to do that again. And they were like, we need to spotlight a new culture in this movie, because that's what they did in the last film, spotlighting like the mix of African cultures that they have in Wakanda with the different tribes and stuff. So I like the spin that they gave it with the Mayan spin, the different name now. Really, really enjoyed that. Very imaginative, very well thought out. Very interesting with this vibranium ball being the sun, the sun inside, like the source of light for all of Talokan. Very, very interesting. The water bombs, all that stuff's very, very cool, and still felt advanced, but also true to where this like primitive enough that reflects the rest of their culture, kind of staying stagnant throughout the hundreds of years since they've been in hiding since like the 1600s or something. Like, you know, we figured out these things. This stuff is still the same. We're still painting on walls and that sort of stuff. So I liked how they kind of got frozen in time, so to speak, and still were more advanced because of the vibranium a little bit. So really, really cool. And that explains why all these Talokan are more powerful than anything else, because they're used to the pressure of the ocean depths. And when you come up above Earth, you know, it's like if you go and walk on the moon right now, you're going to jump higher on the moon than you are here on Earth, because you're used to the Earth's pressure and that level of gravity. So when you come up from the bottom of the ocean, it's all less. So your body's used to exerting more to do less, so that when you do it somewhere else, you're more powerful. Like, it's a Superman thing. I don't know. But I like that, like figuring that out in my brain while I was watching the movie. It's like, oh, that's why they're more powerful. Not because of genetics or vibranium, just because they've been living underneath the ocean's surface. That made a whole lot of sense to me. And I was like, wow, they're really setting up Talokan to be a major player or threat in the Marvel Cinematic Universe if they engage them more because of that ability that they have. So I thought that was very cool. The ending, though, that's where it kind of lost me. You have the montage stuff, and you know, there's a lot of stuff with these suits in this film. Like the first Black Panther film, my personal favorite Black Panther suit is the one from Civil War. That's the helmet they had the whole freaking time for T'Challa, was the Civil War helmet. I love that suit. Practical, you know, very cool. Shuri, and then in the second film, it felt like they went to this all CGI suit, a la Spider-Man, or even if, I felt like maybe there were some shots where Chadwick Boseman was wearing an actual thing, but you could also tell when they went full CG on this character. But it was the same thing as Spider-Man. Like, there's no arm wrinkles, there's no fabric wrinkles. It was all purely like the best spandex you could ever buy kind of thing. So when Shuri shows up in that first scene in the Jabari lands as the Black Panther, wearing a physical suit the whole time when she's talking, and you can see everything on her, I was like, yes, physical suits again for the win. And you have Nakia running around in this green skin tight outfit, which I was just like, props to Lupita Nyong'o for putting that on. She looks fantastic in it, even though you could tell it was like, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm glad that you could tell she was just wearing some like lycra suit or whatever. I felt real to me, you know. Way better than like the CG stuff. This Midnight Angel armor sucks. I like the design in the comics, but they literally lifted it from Brian Stelfreeze's design and put it in the film, and it feels very CW-ish. Like if you ever watched when they made Blue Beetle in the CW for the first time in Smallville back in like season 9, very Beetleborgs, if you know what I'm talking about. Very Power Rangers, like very 1990s thing. Like it didn't look modern. It looked very comic booky compared to Shuri's outfit, which looked like a not comic booky. Does this make any sense? You know what I mean? Although I gotta say, Shuri's outfit way busier than I thought. Like this whole Black Panther outfit is a huge pendulum swing, right? You have the Civil War outfit, which is, in my mind, the best one yet so far. And then you have a pendulum, and it's a little busy and it's practical. And then you have a pendulum swing to the Black Panther movie, where he's in this outfit for the majority of the film that is totally CG half the time when he's in his suit. You know, you can't tell it's a practical suit ever. You know, and if it is a practical suit, then they're CGing the hell out of it like Spider-Man, so that you cannot tell that it's practical at all. It makes him just look like there's no weight to it almost. And then you have this swing back, and the design is super simple also. And so you swing back on this pendulum to Shuri's suit, which is practical in the first scene, And the pendulum swing on the busy scale is way busier than that first Civil War Black Panther suit. It's super busy. It's way too busy. It needs to be like, the design needs to be simplified, dumbed down a little bit. I like that it's all there. It's just a lot of it. And I feel like that probably gets in the way. And then you have that first shot, the money shot of her standing in that snow in the Jabari lands, and then boom, swing over to the digital side in the finale, and it's like an all CG character. There's no weight on the suit. And can't remember the actress's name that's playing Shuri. She's so thin and wiry that when you put that suit on her as a pure like 3D scan, almost like it's this skin tight thing, it almost makes her feel like a spider. Like she's so lanky, I guess. I was like, plus the CG, it's like, is that a real character? Is that a real person? Because there's no thickness or anything added on half the time when in that final fight with Namor. And I feel like the CG let us down a lot in this film. There were some shots that were amazing, and then as the film got on, you're like, this could be a little bit better, or this looks bad. And I was watching it on IMAX, and it was also a weird choice for me directorially to have the big fight with the Wakandans and Talokan on this boat be in the IMAX ratio, full 16:9 Disney Plus frame or whatever the fuck it is, to then cut to the Shuri and Namor fight, which is this. And on the IMAX screen, you can tell instantly that the quality of the film also degrades because you go from this bright, clear blue image to this kind of grainy, sandy, dusty image, which is less bright. And you're like, why isn't this whole finale in IMAX? Like, you're just shooting digital half the time anyway, right? So that was bizarre. That shifting, like, come on, like, just, hey, the last 20 minutes of the movie are going to be full frame. Okay, cool, 60:9 IMAX, Disney Plus that shit. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this in the climax of the film? I don't know. I never know. Like, Christopher Nolan made sense, because he was choosing his shots because he was using real IMAX cameras that were big and hefty in 2005 or 6, whenever they were shooting The Dark Knight, right? And it made a little bit more sense with Dark Knight Rises. That was like 2011. This is still 10 years ago. Now, and if they're just shooting all digital anyway and just framing it for IMAX and keeping shooting it at 8K for resolution, just freaking do the whole thing. Like, come on. It's a weird choice. So that took me out of it. And then so I was watching wiry Shuri in a CG suit, or a CG character that's supposed to be Shuri, do all these movements and stuff. And not even that, but there were moments too where she's getting pushed back, where it was like they didn't even try to put a person in a suit in a character and do that shot. It was like, well, we'll just do it in CG or whatever, and it looked bad. And I think maybe the busyness of that suit also doesn't help. So I don't know, something that got lost there from the powerful moment of her in the Jabari lands, her arrival, to then her fighting on the side of the ship and in the desert against Namor. And Namor's like a fucking dude. Like, Tenoch Huerta had to do all that shit himself. He's got a big muscular frame. Like, you can't mistake him for his stunt double. So props to him for showing up that day. I don't know who did the Shuri stuff, but man, that CG render was just, didn't serve the film well. And then there's also that thing too where she gets like stabbed, impaled on the spear, and just like survives, cuts the spear off and pulls herself out, and is like then still standing on the side of this helicopter next to Namor, and they're like, hey, we're friends now. What's the score? And you're like looking at the ship, and they started that ship with a whole ship of Wakandans, like the entire, from bow to stern, of Wakandan warriors. And by the end, it's just the main characters, like, 25 people with the Dora Milaje and all that, and all the Talokan had, overtaken it. So it's like you wiped out 80% of everybody we brought with this fight with us, and we're all friends now. Was like, I mean, I get it, they're more powerful, but man, it just felt a little empty. And my wife, Amanda's sitting the whole time next to me watching this going like, why didn't they just kill the scientist? And I didn't want to be like, because her name is Riri Williams and they're going to try to make female Iron Man a thing now. Which, don't get me wrong, I like Riri Williams here more than I've ever liked her in the comic books. Thumbs up, Riri Williams, Dominique Thorne. Fantastic job. I can remember her name, but I can't remember the girl's, but sure. Dominique. Was Dominique right? No, who's it? I can't remember her name to save my life. Anyway, I thought she was fine. I like what they were doing with her, how they introducing her. The evolution of the suits, fine. Made sense to me. You're in Wakanda for a week. You get to super 3D print everything, and now you have an Iron Man suit. Okay, cool. But, yeah, my wife was like, they would have just killed the scientist. And even in, like, the ancestral plane thing, they were talking about, like, hey, your mother would have probably just killed that scientist. Your father would have killed that scientist. He killed my dad. And my wife the whole time was like, they should just kill that girl and get on with their lives. And you know what? Like, I know her name was Riri Williams and all, but they could have named her anything. And if she was named anything else but that, I kind of agree with her. That they kind of just, as a nation, like, what's one person that you don't even know? Just, so, I don't know. It felt like a whole lot of nothing to me to fight over the ability to build a Wakandan vibranium detector. Like, the Wakandans don't have that anywhere, and can't build that themselves. He's worried about one scientist, so the whole, like, kill the scientist thing felt a little iffy to me just because she was a United States citizen or whatever, so I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts on this movie. I wasn't the best thing I've ever seen all year. I mean, I've seen some stuff this year. Nothing's really super impressed me. I gotta say, I still like Thor Love and Thunder better than this movie. It made sense. As crazy and nutty as it was just hella fun. And this movie I know was not meant to be fun. Honestly, maybe I'm a little bit disappointed that I went into this movie expecting to cry towards the whole time, and I did not cry at all whatsoever. And I was really kind of wanting to. Like, I was ready. I was open. I rewatched Black Panther. I was crying watching Chadwick Boseman on screen. And, you know, I was getting there a little bit when the Marvel logo showed up and it's all silent and it's just all Chadwick there. I was like, okay, I'm ready. You know, make me cry. I'm ready. I'm open. And then for the rest of the film, just to kind of be like coming down from that feeling, instead of like amping it up or really hitting me somewhere, I was just like, I was kind of disappointed, honestly. I was looking forward to a sad film. You know, people were like, bring tissues. I'm like, okay. And then just the last moment of her on the beach with surprise sun boy. Ugh. The less said about that, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But that was just like a silly thing to me. Like, hey, T'Challa, or Nakia tells T'Challa, hey, I'm pregnant. He's like, really? Awesome. Let's hide this secret from my mother, who's going through a whole bunch of shit because my dad's dead. And also I disappeared at some point in time, or, you know, maybe the son is like 8, so he has had to have been born pre-blip, right? Like pre-Infinity War, post-Black Panther 1. So he's born somewhere in that time period. He's like 7 or 8. He's my daughter's age, look like. So, what is the deal there? Like, you're just hiding this from your mom the entire time? The entire time? Queen Ramonda knew. Like, yeah, when? At what point did she know? Because you just told your sister. Well, you didn't tell her, but, you know, didn't make any sense. But I wonder if that's also them trying to make sense of, like, the actor's way of dealing with his sickness. Like, nobody on his team knew. Nobody at Marvel knew. Him passing was a huge surprise to nearly everyone except his immediate family. So maybe they're trying to reflect Chadwick Boseman in T'Challa that way, but that doesn't make. So they're like, here, we're going to give T'Challa something that's as private as Chadwick's illness was to him, and give it to that character, and it's like there's no narrative reason for that to make any sense. I guess because, like, at least this is my opinion. To me, life special, something to be celebrated. A grandchild for the king and queen of Wakanda. I mean, his dad was passed away at the time, but to give your parent a grandchild when they're good parents to you, like, you know, that's a special thing. That's something to be shared, to be celebrated. And to take that away, like, I have some friends who, you know, they had a niece and nephew, and they don't get along with their family or whatever that well. Their family's not that terrible. I don't really know the whole backstory. But anyway, they were like, no, I haven't seen the kid. And a year went by, and the kid turned 1. No, I haven't seen the kid. And I'm like, dude, that's your niece and nephew. Like, what are you doing? Whether you like your brother and sister or not, or your parents or not, like, this child doesn't deserve that. You should at least go be there for the kid. Because that kid's going to want an auntie, you know what I mean? Or an uncle. Come on. Finally, they saw the kid, but it's still, like, you just miss out on those first moments, and, like, there's no attachment. So I feel bad that Ramonda maybe didn't got the same treatment as my friend. Like, I don't know. To me, that's something special, something to be celebrated and shared, and then to hide it away, because it's not a secret that T'Challa and Nakia were in love. It's not like everybody disapproved of him and Nakia. Like, that was not a thing. It's not like, oh, well, nobody wanted me to be with that woman, so I have to hide this child away. Or there's a bunch of people hunting this child, so he's in danger, so we have to hide this child away. That is not the case at all. That is not the case at all. So for it to be this big secret, just makes no sense to me, other than, hey, we're going to do this because Chadwick had a big secret and kept it from everybody, so we want to give, you know, not only the illness nobody knew about of T'Challa, we're also going to do this with this kid angle. It's just like, I don't know. I mean, they cast a good kid. He had the same smile and everything. Okay, cool, but goddamn. Ugh, what a mess. So, yeah, ultimately, I think this ends up being like a 3 out of 5 film for me. That's where I'd put it. Middle of the pack. Like, not bad, not great, but just kind of a lot of interesting things, at least upon first watch. So those are my long, rambling thoughts on Wakanda Forever. If you stuck with me all the way to the end, thank you very much. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of the movie, and we'll see you guys next time in the Funny Pages.